I'm Susan Rostow, creator of Akua Inks, and this is Christina Pumo, my assistant. And this demo is going to show you how to modify the inks and tips and tricks on using them. Akua Intaglio can be mixed with any other Akua Intaglio ink. They could be used right from the jar without modification, or you can modify them with the several modifiers that we have to offer. Akua liquid pigment can be mixed with any other Akua ink. This is the transparent base, and it is Akua Intaglio ink without any pigment. You can add the Akua liquid pigment into the transparent base.
It's like a nice way to tint.
So if you add ink to the transparent base, you'll knock down the intensity of the color. And that's really important when you're doing overlays. You want to use the flat side of the knife and smash it down.
So when you drag it out, kind of like a drawdown on your palette, it gives you an idea of how transparent the ink is going to roll.
Mm-hmm. It's always best to add the Intaglio ink to the transparent base.
Not vice versa.
Right.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to end up with too much.
Exactly.
Blending medium acts as the water to the Akua Intaglio ink.
Blending medium is used to thin Akua Intaglio ink to do wash effects or brush work. You are also doing something very cool with the Akua liquid pigment.
Yes. So one experimental kind of way of working, draw with the blending medium, and then if you take the liquid pigment and just add drops. When you add the pigment into the blending medium, the pigment seems to kind of sit on top of the medium itself. In fact, you can kind of see the separation between the blending medium and the Akua liquid pigments. And maybe drop on another color in just certain spots. The key things are you're gonna want to print with the Akua pin press because a lesser pressure will allow the ink and medium to kind of remain as they are as they enter the printing process. And also the kind of material that you're going to print on, you want to use something kind of fabric-y. If you were to use a regular paper, it would probably spread.
Why don't we try to blot it and see what happens? It's so perfect for... The Mag Mix is a soy base that contains magnesium carbonate powder. It's used to thicken the ink and add a little more body to ink. I use it for the Intaglio ink. It's not very compatible with the liquid pigment.
So the soy base acts as the vehicle kind of already being there?
Exactly.
How about we use the Carbazole Violet because it's nice and loose?
Perfect.
Looks like it kind of changes the color. How does that affect the print?
Usually when it dries, it goes back to its normal color. There we go. So now it stays on the knife. Tack thickeners used with the Akua liquid pigment, it's not necessary for the Akua Intaglio ink. You can't use that much of it. It's only a little bit. Did you shake this? Oh, I'm gonna make sure I do, because whenever you use the liquid pigment, you always need to shake the bottle.
So is this like a 50-50?
What I'm gonna do is kind of slowly move the tack thickener into the Akua liquid pigment. And I'm gonna watch it slowly thicken. If you add too much of it, and especially if you add too much all at once, it gets clumpy. 50-50 would have been way too much. Yeah, it would have been overkill. So you can see how it rolls out with a little more tack. It's a little shorter than if you just used the liquid pigment by itself. It gives it some body, so you don't get that blend kind of wash. Yeah, so that's nice. The release agent's great for ghost prints. We roll it on after it's printed.
So how would you go about doing that?
After you print your first impression, there's a little bit of residue left on the plate. I would just roll it directly on the plate and roll it out with a clean brayer.
So you roll it on the whole thing and then let it sit for probably 5 minutes so that all those yummy leftovers soften up.
There's a softening process that will allow the ink to transfer beautifully onto paper once it's printed. It's sort of like a magical experience. This is the first print. This is the ghost print. The metallic inks really need the release agent. The metallic inks are more of a flake. They're not a pigment, so they're flat, and when they go through the press, they just love sticking to the plastic. Yeah, I always do the metallic a little heavier.
What I'm going to do is take a little bit of the release agent from the jar. The release agent will soften anything that you have either remaining on the plate or anything that you have just put onto the plate. Lay your release agent the same way that you lay ink. So we're just gonna roll. And then what I'm gonna do now, I'm just gonna roll half of it so we can see what it looks like.
And you don't need it with the other colors.
No.
You only need it with the metallics.
metallics. Once you've rolled the release agent onto your inked surface, you want to let it sit for at least 3 to 5 minutes. So the longer you let it sit with the release agent on there, the softer the ink on the plate will get. Once it's printed, this is what it will look like. So on this side, this is where we rolled the release agent, and this side did not have any release agent. So here you can clearly see the difference between the two.
A few drops of retarder can be added to the Akua liquid pigment to give you extended working time. And this is really good when we have the air conditioner on, and you don't need that much. I'm gonna use the edge of the brayer to mix it. That's a lot. That would be for like a huge plate. You see when you try to roll it out, the roller won't even roll.
Yeah.
So when you roll Akua liquid pigment directly on the plate with a little bit of retarder,
You really gotta spread it.
you really just want to do a little bit at a time. You put down a layer and then you build it up so the second layer adheres to the first layer. And if that's not dense enough in color, then you should just use intaglio ink. Thanks for watching Tips and Tricks.
Stay tuned and be sure to check out more.